All right, guys, so here we are taking a dive into the total direct material variance. And as I mentioned in the last video, this total direct material variance is now separated into two smaller variances, which is direct materials, which is this one, which is the direct material price variance, and the other one is the direct materials quantity variance. Now, the direct material price variance is really applicable, or is applicable to more so the purchasing team, right? Because the purchasing team is the one that's in control of buying the materials from the suppliers, right? So if they're buying the materials at a higher price, usually the manager or what have you, if there's any kind of variance, or if I'm being asked to explain a variance, then maybe the accountant, I am going to go to the pricing manager and say, hey, I see this large variance and it's primarily due to price. And so that would probably be my point of contact when trying to understand why there's such a huge variance. Okay, so that one usually primary relies in the purchasing department. And then we have direct material quantity variance. And anytime there's a quantity variance, in this particular case, is dealing with the production team, okay? Because they're the ones that's using the material in production. So if they're using too much material, right, or what have you, then it's surely to cause a variance. And so if I'm the accountant on this particular case and I'm trying to understand the variance, then my point of contact when studying the direct material quantity variance is to talk to maybe the supervisor in that particular department. He or she's gonna be my point of contact, and I'm gonna probably start with, hey, I noticed that we are having a variance in this particular material, and I see that you're using a lot of this material in your department. Can you tell me what's causing such the large variance? And so that's the dialogue that would take place, and there you go from there. Okay. So anyways, now we're going to talk about how to figure out this variance and what it looks like. So it says actual and standard direct costs may differ because of price differences, which is a variance, and quantity variances, are both. And so here is kind of showing you looking at your actual direct material cost, standard, and then the differences between it. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on there, but what I want to let you know is that there is a formula to be derived from this. Okay. All right, so direct material cost variance. So if the actual price is greater than the standard price, meaning when the purchasing team went out to the supplier, and if they spent $5, right, instead of spending $4, this will, but like, that's the wrong thing. So yeah, if they spent $5 instead of spending $4, this is going to cause an unfavorable variance because you're spending more than what the standard called for, right? So anywho, when we're trying to understand or find the direct material price variance, remember that is indicative of what happened in the purchasing team, or however they purchased the material from the supplier. The formula we're going to use to figure out what our direct material price variance is actual price less standard price times the actual quantity. Okay, and so don't worry, we're going to have an example shortly to go through this and apply this. Okay. All right, so direct material quantity variance, as I mentioned before, this one is relating to the production team. Okay. So if our actual quantity is greater than our standard quantity, then we would have an unfavorable variance, or vice versa. Meaning, hey, you were only supposed to use 5 square feet, right? However, you use maybe, you actually use 5 square feet, but you're supposed to use 3 square feet, right? So as a result, you're going to have an unfavorable variance because the standard called for less material. Okay, so here's our formula when figuring out the direct materials quantity variance. It's actual quantity less my standard quantity times my standard price. Okay, all right, moving on. So here's a good example for us to walk through. So let's read through this. So I encourage you to pause the video, read through this and see if you can apply it, okay? I have also outlined this in, this is on your handout. So maybe work through this, pause it, and then come back and we can work through it together, okay? I'm gonna switch applications. All right, oopsie. All right, so let's read through this and work through it now. All right, so it says Billingham Company produces a product that requires 2.5 standard pounds per unit. The standard price is $3.75 per pound. If 15,000 units are used, 15,000 units use 36,000 pounds, which were purchased at $4 per pound, what is the direct materials, price variance, the quantity variance, and the cost variance? And then it's telling us to enter the favorable variance as a negative number and as a negative number using a minus sign, and unfavorable variance as a positive, okay? All right, so we're gonna use the formula that we learned before. Just for your sake, what I have made available to you guys is if you scroll at the very, very bottom of your sheet, here's your formulas for direct material variance. And then when we get into the labor, that's that one. So we are trying to figure out the very first one, which is the direct material price variance. So it's gonna be actual price minus standard price times the actual quantity. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. Okay, so I'm gonna take a second and write this formula out. So again, if we're doing price variance, this equals actual price minus our standard price times our actual quantity. Okay, all right, so here. So here we are. First, we got to find what is our actual price. So it tells us that the actual price of this is $4 per pound, right? So we agree. So actual price is $4. And then it says the standard price, their standard price per pound is $3.75. So before even moving on here, I know that I am gonna have a unfavorable variance because my actual price is already greater than my standard price, right? I'm already operating beyond that, even before I apply the actual quantity. All right, so and then I'm gonna multiply it times the actual quantity. All right, so it says if 15,000 units use 36,000 pounds, all right? So our actual quantity is gonna be times 36,000 pounds. That's what we're gonna do, okay? So times 36,000 pounds, all right? So if we did that calculation, $4 minus, we gotta do what's in the parentheses first. So we gotta do $4 minus $3.75. That's gonna give us 25 cents. And that 25 cents times the 36,000 pounds comes out to 9,000. Okay, as I mentioned before, this is going to be an unfavorable variance because our actual price was $4, but the standard called for $3.75. So we have, in regards to the price variance, we have a $9,000 unfavorable variance. So it will be a positive 9,000, and I'm going to put unfavorable here. Okay, and so now we're going to do the direct material quantity variance. And as I mentioned before, the formula is at the very bottom. So direct material quantity. So that formula is our actual quantity minus our standard quantity equals, sorry. All right, let me erase that. Sorry. And that's going to be times our standard price. Okay. All right, so our actual quantity came out to be 36,000 pounds. And our standard quantity, well, we got to do some calculation, right? Because it's going to be 2.5 is our standard pounds per unit times the number of units that we made. So we have to do that quick calculation, right? So I'm going to put it over here. Standard quantity, the way we're going to figure it out is 2.5 pounds times our 15,000 units that we made. And so once we do that calculation, 2.5 times 15,000 units that was made, we actually, our standard was 37,500 pounds. Okay, and then we're going to multiply that times our standard price. Again, our standard price was the $3.75. Now, before I even get into this, I know that this is going to be a favorable variance because our actual quantity of 36,000 is less than our standard quantity, right? So right here, I'm going to put favorable variance, and now it's just a matter of calculating what that favorable variance is. So I'm going to do a 36,000 minus 37,500. And so that comes out to a negative 1,500. And then I'm going to multiply that times $3.75. So 375. And that comes out to $5,625. And remember, unfavorable variances is a negative number. So I'm going to do minus 5,625. Okay. All right. So then last but not least, it asks, what is the direct material cost variance? Well, you're just going to add these two numbers together, your favorable variance and your direct material price variance and your direct material quantity variance. And so once you do that, what I know is because your unfavorable variance number is higher, you're going to have an overall unfavorable variance. So you do 9,000 less the 5,625. And so therefore your direct material cost variance overall is 3,375, and it is an unfavorable variance. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. What I would tell you guys to do is work through this problem again on your own. But what I also want to highlight for the people that's actually following along is I will give you extra credit. So only if you watch this video will you get it, but I will give you extra credit if you complete this problem. You will have to email it to me. So that's the only way I know you did it, or you watched the video. Okay, so email your answers to me. All right.